Long ago, in a kingdom surrounded by tall mountains and winding rivers, there lived a young royal guard named Saman. The kingdom was peaceful, and the palace stood proudly at its center, with banners flowing in the wind and soldiers training in the open courtyard. Saman was one of the most skilled guards in the palace. He was strong, disciplined, and known for his sharp aim with the bow. His arrows flew straight and true more often than not. The other guards admired his dedication. But inside his heart, Saman carried a heavy burden. He believed that strength meant never making mistakes. He believed that a true warrior should never falter. And so he trained harder than anyone else. If he made even a small error, he punished himself with longer hours of practice. One bright afternoon, during an important training session, Saman stood before the archery target. The courtyard was quiet as he lifted his bow. He drew the string back and released the arrow. The arrow struck the target, but not at the center. It landed just slightly to the side. It was a small mistake. Most people would hardly notice, but Saman noticed. He heard a faint whisper from two other guards nearby. Though they said nothing cruel, he imagined their thoughts. He missed, he told himself. I am careless. I am not as skilled as they think. Shame rose within him like heat. His chest tightened. His mind began to race. He quickly prepared another arrow, eager to correct his mistake, but his hands trembled slightly. His thoughts were loud and harsh. The second arrow flew and landed even farther from the center. That evening, Saman sat alone in the palace garden beneath a flowering tree. The sky glowed orange and pink as the sun began to set, yet he did not notice the beauty around him. His mind replayed the moment again and again. I should have done better, he thought. I have disappointed everyone. A wise monk who often visited the palace gardens noticed Saman sitting there with a troubled face. The monk approached quietly and sat beside him. You seem pierced by something, he said gently. Saman bowed his head. I failed today. I missed my target in front of everyone. I cannot stop thinking about it. The monk picked up a small stick and drew two lines in the soft dirt before them. In life, the monk said calmly, we are sometimes struck by the first arrow. Saman looked at him, confused. The first arrow is pain. It may be a mistake, a loss, or a harsh word. It comes without invitation. Saman nodded slowly. But then, the monk said, drawing a second line beside the first, we often shoot a second arrow at ourselves. The second arrow is suffering we create in our own minds. It is the voice that says, I am not good enough. It is the anger we hold against ourselves. It is the endless replaying of what has already happened. Saman stared at the two lines in the dirt. When your arrow missed the center, the monk said softly, that was the first arrow. But sitting here, calling yourself careless and weak, that is the second arrow. Saman felt his breath slow as understanding began to dawn. So the pain was small, but I made it larger. The monk nodded. We cannot always avoid the first arrow. Life brings difficulty to everyone. But the second arrow is a choice. Saman thought about the way his thoughts had pierced him more deeply than the missed shot ever could. What should I do when the first arrow strikes? He asked. Notice it. Feel it. Learn from it. But do not wound yourself again. The next morning, Saman returned to the training grounds. He stood before the target once more. He lifted his bow, steadying his breath. He released the arrow. It landed close to the center, but not perfectly. Immediately, he felt a flicker of disappointment. There is the first arrow, he thought. He paused. Instead of criticizing himself, he observed the feeling. He adjusted his stance slightly and reminded himself to breathe. He released another arrow. This time, it landed closer. Over the following weeks, Saman practiced not only his aim, but also his awareness. When he made a mistake, he corrected it without harshness. When others criticized him, he listened calmly and did not carry their words into the night. Little by little, his mind became steadier. One afternoon, a young trainee guard approached him with tears in his eyes. "I embarrassed myself during practice," the young guard said. "Everyone saw me fail." Saman recognized the look of self-judgment. He knelt down and drew 2 lines in the sand, just as the monk had done. "Sometimes," Saman said gently, "we are struck by the first arrow. That is pain. But we do not need to shoot the second arrow." The young guard listened closely. "Missing the target is one arrow. Calling yourself worthless is the second." The young guard wiped his tears and took a deep breath. Years passed, and Saman grew older. He became known not only for his skill with the bow, but also for his calm presence. When mistakes happened in the palace, others did not fear his judgment. Instead, they found encouragement. He would often tell new trainees, "You cannot control every arrow that comes your way, but you can choose whether to send another one into your own heart." And so, the kingdom learned a simple truth. Pain is part of life, but suffering grows when we fight it. The first arrow may strike without warning. The second arrow is always a choice. When we lay down the second arrow, even our mistakes lose their power to wound us twice.